Congressional leaders have reached a COVID relief deal, and of course, it is not enough. Now, in this video, I'm going to focus mostly on the direct payment aspect of this deal. There's also other aspects like $300 per week for unemployment benefits, which is a cut down from $600. But I want to focus mostly on the direct payments, as this is something where, you look around the world. Canada had $2,000 a month from the beginning of the pandemic. That's now been folded into unemployment insurance. Countries like Germany, France had wage subsidies. For Germany, up to 87% of your full-time pay was covered, up to 100% for part-time pay. But you look in the U.S., you get $600 in this new deal, a one-time check of $600, and that's if you are eligible for that payment. So first, from CNN here, Hill leaders reach $900 billion COVID relief deal in breakthrough following partisan disputes. The full details of what will be in the relief package have yet to be released, but the package is expected to include a $600 direct stimulus payment for Americans under a certain income level, along with many other programs aimed at helping the economic fallout of the pandemic. Now, $600, first of all, stimulus, as I've discussed, is the wrong terminology for this. People are struggling right now. Mass eviction crisis. Hunger is at an all-time high. This is not a stimulus. People need the money. These are survival checks. $600 is just nothing. Compared to other countries, it's nothing. Also compared to what was in this deal for corporations, also this $600 is just, it's not enough. Now, a little more commentary here from Common Dreams. Survey results released Saturday show that 88% of likely voters say they would support Congress sending out another round of one-time $1,200 direct payments, data that came a day after Republican Senator Ron Johnson twice blocked passage of a bill to provide such relief to working-class Americans. Conducted by progressive think tank Data for Progress, the poll finds that 93% of Democrats, 83% of Republicans, and 87% of likely independent/third-party voters would support the distribution of another one-time payment of $1,200 to most Americans as a coronavirus relief measure. Just 9% of likely voters say they are opposed to another round of $1,200 direct payments. So, once again, Congress is not on the side of the people. I mean, this really applies across the board. I've done videos breaking down polling when it comes to issues like Medicare for All, wealth tax, Green New Deal, and the people are on the side of those issues while Congress clearly is not. This is just another example of that. So once again, Congress fighting for the wealthy and massive corporations as opposed to actually fighting for people. Yet, of course, you had a couple people in there. Bernie Sanders, of course, fighting for a larger stimulus. And in fact, he was actually fighting for $2,000 a month. But he discussed how, because of the makeup of the Senate, there's no way that's getting passed. So he ended up fighting for $1,200 in the one-time payment, along with Josh Hawley from the GOP. But yeah, people on the side of those larger payments. Now I just got to show this because Nancy Pelosi is just incredible. Peter Dow here tweeting out this video. Breaking: Pelosi says $600 is a significant amount for working families. This is somebody who is a 100 millionaire. Listen to her comments here.
We also have in the legislation direct payments, which were not in the Republican bill, to America's working families. I would like them been bigger, but they are significant, and they will be going out soon.
It really is incredible to see somebody who is worth over $100 million call a one-time $600 check significant. This is during a pandemic, mass eviction crisis, hunger on the rise. $600 significant in the eyes of a 100 millionaire. Now, of course, Nancy Pelosi isn't the only problem here. We're talking about the entire Republican Party, essentially, except for a couple people or one person. And Democrats as well. Leadership did not actually fight. I mean, the real issue is they gave almost all their leverage up with the CARES Act, allowing all these corporate bailouts back at the beginning of the pandemic in March or April when that passed. And because of that, Democrats, because they didn't fight for enough at that time, they have now been forced to essentially play by the Mitch McConnell rule book, which has just forced them to continue to capitulate in every single situation. And this is another example of that. Now, of course, they don't have to capitulate, but because of the makeup of the Democratic Party and what they always do, they always give in to right-wing framing, always give in to the GOP. They gave in again. So while this is obviously incredibly disappointing, it's just not surprising knowing how this current makeup of Democratic leadership operates. Now, more here. Linda Sarsour reacting to the Nancy Pelosi video saying, only filthy rich people think $600 is significant for working families. Absolutely. Had to put this one in here. As Congress is about to approve a $1.375 billion for border wall in 2021. They found the money for this. Couldn't find the money to give that to actual people. Yeah. Now, here is the comparison I want to make in terms of the media. This is the New York Times. Their headline here, the deal is good enough. The deal is good enough. It should have been larger. It should have happened months ago, but an agreement on coronavirus aid is still a welcome dose of good news. The job of the media is supposed to be on the side of the people, fighting for people. They're supposed to put pressure on those in power to represent the people that have no power. That's not what the New York Times is doing here. They are giving in to the typical Democratic Republican framing of, oh, well, at least we made a deal, without acknowledging that clearly, if you give this deal any context compared to other countries around the world, this deal is a joke. But this is why you have to read people that are honest. Daily Poster, this is David Sirota's outlet here. $600 is not enough, and it won't get easier. Dems refuse to seize a rare opportunity to outmaneuver McConnell, and now the final COVID relief bill skimps on benefits, provides tax breaks to the rich, and notches a big win for austerity extremism. And you also have to understand, this is the only leverage Democrats had right now was this Georgia runoff. Apparently, Mitch McConnell was aware that their constituents wanted direct payments. So he was willing to give in on this deal because of that, because he was afraid of how it may play in the Georgia runoffs. But with this deal made, there's no leverage left. Once Joe Biden's in, I mean, there's a possibility Democrats will have control of the Senate with a Kamala Harris vote as well, if they win those two runoffs in Georgia. But it's still not it's not going to be enough, because Republicans absolutely will filibuster. They will block. They will do whatever they can to block any sort of progress, any sort of relief past this bill. So this could be the end. And after this, the GOP are going to say that there's a vaccine on the way, and that's going to solve everything. In fact, Nancy Pelosi has even been saying this. Because the vaccine's on the way and because Joe Biden's going to be president, there's light at the end of the tunnel. Without acknowledging what is actually what people are facing right now in terms of their debt, in terms of household debt, in terms of medical debt, in terms of being evicted, in terms of going hungry. You have to deal with the actual situation at hand and understand that people have had no real financial help since the beginning of this pandemic. And even if a lot of people that maybe were let go and were hired back, they still are not making enough to survive. People working 2-3 jobs, this is completely insane. There has to be real substantial change. And honestly, I've discussed this before, and I'm going to keep discussing this. You're not going to see real substantial change under Joe Biden unless there is something like a general strike. There has to be a mass movement of people that I think should be focused on, one or two issues, so it's clear what the mass movement is about. But there needs to be a mass movement of people actually pushing. And the only way to utilize your power is through a general strike. That is the only way you will force them to capitulate to you, because that ends up hurting their donors. It ends up hurting who supports them, these massive corporations. If you withhold your labor, that is the only power you have in this situation. So, look, I'm not the person to organize this, but labor leaders have to get together. There has to be something done to actually push for substantial change, and a general strike is the way to do that. Now, just a little more details here from this piece. Here's the truth. Democrats had a rare opportunity to win a widely popular proposal for much bigger survival checks, but they chose to lose. Here's some more truth. One-time means-tested checks of $600 is not a big victory, and not even the bare minimum that should be considered acceptable during an economic meltdown that has been punctuated by mass starvation and intensifying poverty. Though the legislative language of the final package has not yet been released, it appears the meager checks come in a bill that will give new tax benefits to corporate executives to write off their meals and provide other tax breaks to businesses that used the Paycheck Protection Program, which will be a windfall for the wealthy. Will the bill change the law to similarly exempt emergency unemployment benefits from tax levies? We don't yet know, but there's no indication it will. As I said, this bill once again ignores the vast majority of people and focuses in on what is acceptable to the corporate elite. Nothing is going to change unless you withhold your labor. That's the bottom line. These lawmakers in Washington, the vast majority of them don't care about you, have absolutely no connection to you, save for a few: Bernie Sanders, AOC, Ilhan Omar, Rashida Tlaib, soon to be Jamal Bowman, Cori Bush. But for the most part, they don't care. So understand who fights for you and who doesn't, and understand that the only way to actually change anything right now and going into the future over the next 4 years is to use your power to actually put pressure on the economy and force their hand. The only way to do that is through a general strike.